Hello, my name is Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic.com, and you're listening to Pinned, a pro wrestling podcast. You love it.
Hey everyone, this is Austin, and I just wanted to be the first to welcome you guys to Pinned, a pro wrestling podcast. This is our inaugural episode that we did with Sam, the Shredditor driver from Cultaholic. You may remember us from Ringmasters podcast, which we did with CM Life, me, Chad, and my little sister Sydney. We have gone independent, actually, and we have moved away from CM Life, working with our lovely editor, Grant, with his brand new creation, And More Media, which is going to be home to a bunch of podcasts from a bunch of amazing and talented and funny people that you should definitely check out. More news on those podcasts will be coming very soon in the coming months. And also, if you remember, we announced before we made the name change from Ringmasters to Pinned, a pro wrestling podcast, that we are going to be on Podcast Row at Starrcast. Yes, and we are scheduled for Sunday, September 2nd, the day after All In. So if you guys are heading to Starrcast, be sure to say hi to us. We will be down there. We'll have some lanyards so that way you'll know who we are. And also, we wanted to let you guys know that if you aren't able to attend Starrcast, that the entire event is going to be available on Fight TV. There's going to be 20 plus events, 40 plus hours that's going to be live and on demand. And actually, they've got it on sale for only $99, which also includes $20 in Fight credit, which you can use for any other show that appears on the Fight TV app. So if you guys want to do that, be sure to follow Starrcast on Twitter at Starrcast18. And also be sure to follow our new podcast Twitter at Pinned Podcast. That's Pinned Podcast. And also be sure to follow me on Twitter at SZoomer4. Follow Sydney at SAZoomer4. Follow Chad at the Chad100. Be sure to follow Cultaholic and all the Cultaholic guys. And be sure to support those guys on Patreon because those guys absolutely deserve it. And also, don't forget to support And More Media Co., which is coming very soon. Follow them on Twitter at And More Media Co. And yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in and enjoy the first episode of Pinned, a pro wrestling podcast. See you guys at All In. What is going on, guys? My name is Austin, and welcome to the brand new pro wrestling podcast, Pinned. You may know me and my sister Sydney, who is joining us here today from Ringmasters podcast, which we did with CM Life. And this is our brand new podcast we're doing for pro wrestling stuff. Because we are now independent and we are now starting brand new slate before we head into All In weekend. And joining with us here today for this very special inaugural episode is the man behind the computer for Cultaholic, Sam the Shredditor driver. I almost messed that up. How you doing, Sam?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, man. You?
I'm doing great, man. I'm very excited to be back recording the podcast, and there's a ton of stuff that's been going on recently since we've been away, and there's a few stuff that I really wanted to talk about too.
This is all new, right? So you've launched a brand new podcast.
Exactly, yeah. So we got to make sure we don't mess this up. But I mean, we're very glad that you could join us here for this inaugural episode, and just because we consider you and the Cultaholic guys really good friends, and also Sam, for a fun fact, is the best person to play Sea of Thieves with. He's the best person.
Agreed.
I'm really not. I just troll.
Oh no, he really no. Like when you get a guy who will get the instruments in the game and constantly keep playing it until he gets Daniel Bryan's theme, and then ring the bell at the exact same beat as that, and just do that for the entirety of the game. You know you're playing with someone who knows what he's doing.
Oh yeah, I'm assuming I drove you guys absolutely crazy.
Dude, no, it was hysterical.
I was dying.
Like, we had never laughed so hard in like such a long time. Like, we just didn't know what we were getting into, but it was amazing.
I just wish we could have encountered other people.
Dude, yeah, that game just sucks in terms of finding new people, but thankfully they just added bots. But yeah, getting off of that topic though, obviously the first thing we want to talk about, because we're recording this on a Monday, and just as we were about to get ready to start up, it was just announced that Jim the Anvil Neidhart sadly passed away. It was confirmed by WWE like about an hour ago. Obviously, a complete tragedy and an absolute shame. She's the father of WWE superstar Natalya and legendary family member of the Hart Foundation, and just a huge legend in his right in the Attitude Era. And before that, I definitely was shocked to hear that news, and it was just a complete tragedy to hear that. And we definitely wish the Hart family well wishes in this tough time.
Yeah, 100%. I really wasn't expecting to obviously hear this news for a very long time. Jim was always sort of, when I was growing up watching wrestling, I was sort of, I'd get a lot of tapes, like a lot of tapes, and he would always be somebody that would be sort of front and center. Bret Hart was my favorite, so whenever it was Hart Foundation stuff, Jim would always be there. And it was just the intensity the guy had. Like, the intensity he had was just so over the top, but so in control. It was just great.
Absolutely.
Like, I think he'll always be one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you're related to the Harts in any sort of way, you know you're a talented man inside that squared circle.
Or female.
Yeah, talented man, talented female. That's the thing too, is that the Hart family has produced some of the best wrestlers in pro wrestling in terms of not only just male but female too, because people need to really understand that how good Natalya is in the ring. And I think that's just something to show how great the Hart family is in terms of producing incredible wrestlers. So it's an absolute shame to hear what happened, but we hope that the Hart family is doing okay in this tough times, and definitely rest in peace to the Anvil 9 Hart. Now, to move into some lighter stories, though, obviously the big thing going in is that we're only a few weeks away from the biggest independent show probably of all time. Definitely going to see what that Madison Square Garden show is going to do, though, to try to top it. It's All In coming in. Yeah. All In starting up in September, and we are going to be there on Podcast Row. And remember, Starrcast is also going to be streaming on the Fight app if you want to be able to see everybody at Starrcast and ourselves as well on Podcast Row. So definitely check out the Fight app if you want to see that. You can tell we're on Podcast Row because we're shilling hardcore here.
Plug.
Oh, did we lose you, Sam? Or are you still there?
No, I'm still here.
Okay, cool. I just had a mini heart attack. But yeah, no. All In is very shortly away, and just actually yesterday we got a brand new match added to the card with Kenny Omega versus Pentagon Jr., which that could be by far probably my favorite match on the entire card.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, going off a tweet the Young Bucks put out, the 6-man is going to headline, but I just can't wait to see Penta get his hands on Kenny. It's just, yeah, it's going to be brutal. It's just going to be absolutely brutal. There's no sort of two ways about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I've seen like most of the first season of Lucha Underground. I haven't gone in too deep on that, and I definitely need to do a lot of catching up. But from what I've seen, Pentagon Jr. was one of the guys that I instantly latched onto. His look is so like interesting, and he's just a beast. He scares the living crap out of me.
Pentagon he's a monster, absolute monster, and Lucha Underground, he's obviously Pentagon Dark. It's just incredible on that. But I mean, even now when you'd sort of expect him to sort of be chilling a bit more, like in Impact, he's absolutely killing it. Like, I mean, his match with Sami Callihan at Slammiversary was just insane. And he's just consistently one of the strongest guys I feel out there on the indie scene. There's there's rumors that WWE are after Pentagon and Phoenix, but I just don't want to see them ever go there. I don't think they'd know really what to do with them. I think he's just such a loose cannon. It's just going to be one hell of a show. Yeah,
for sure. And like you can imagine like WWE going after somebody like just that talented. And like this card looks so like just completely incredible in terms of different angles, because you get like a match like Pentagon Jr. and Kenny Omega, and then like just lower on the card you've got like Hangman Page versus Joey Janela. Like, this show is going to be wild in terms of what matches they produce.
Oh, yeah, I think it's going to be quite an aggressive fare throughout. I think that's pretty safe to say.
Yeah, and I just love so much about, obviously they're using Being the Elite to advertise and announce all these matches too. But I love how they use Being the Elite to also transfer into the G1, which obviously just wrapped out. Congratulations to Tanahashi on winning that.
Not my ace. Not my ace.
Were you not? Were you not too happy about that?
Well, I like Tanahashi. I just don't know. Because I mean, he's apparently cashed in his contract and he's going for a 3-way the Tokyo Dome. But I don't know. I think maybe it's like another big run for Tanahashi coming up, or at least that's what everybody's thinking at the time. But I just sort of I want to see how far the Ibushi thing's going to go. I think.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of desperate to see how that's concluded.
Yeah, no, I can understand that too, just because of how talented Kota Ibushi is, and just because you want to see how long they can run that with him and Omega, especially with Kenny still holding the title. But yeah, I wasn't too upset with Tanahashi. He's incredible.
I really wanted Kota to win.
Yeah, I think it's just because I'm more familiar with Kota from when he competed in the Cruiserweight Classic, and then after that is when I started learning a lot more about him and when he worked with Kenny. So I was more familiar with Kota for sure, but Tanahashi is still one hell of a worker.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, he's the ace, right? He's the if you don't class Okada as the ace, he's the ace. He comes out with his air guitar. He's the guy. He was sort of everybody makes this comparison, whether it's right or wrong, that he was the John Cena of New Japan, and it's to a degree it's correct. Like he's just the guy. So, yeah, I think it's interesting. It's very interesting. I'm just quite tentative to see how far it's going to go, and I don't know if people are going to sort of see this G1 as a bit of a waste. That's what I'm quite worried about.
Yeah,
it was a hell of a tournament, but I
can definitely understand that.
See it as a waste.
Yeah, I definitely don't want anyone to look at it as a waste either, but I can definitely see where that would come from. But going back to how they tied it together with being the elite, just the fact that Kenny Omega was going through the G1 undefeated and then was like, oh, I'm reading this book on how to be a winner, and then like gave it to Hangman Page, and then after he gave Hangman the book, that's when he lost his first match. He's like, listen, I kind of need that book back. That's like just ridiculous storytelling when you're using your YouTube series as kayfabe for why Kenny Omega lost his first match.
Well, how else are you going to get the kayfabe across?
Exactly.
I mean, New Japan has a great system of doing it, treating it like a real sport and letting the kayfabe bleed through press conferences, things like that. But I think with being the elite, especially, it allows for much wider kayfabe and mystery around all of the characters throughout whatever promotion they're in, wherever they're working. There's that sort of aura around them, and everybody knows what they're up to because of being the elite. And I think it's sort of like a micro kayfabe for everybody involved. It's weird. It's sort of like its own story that lends itself well to the independent wrestler because they're always all over the place. So if there's this sort of consistent story and everybody's adhering to it, I think it can only be a good thing.
Absolutely. And like it's crazy too, because that originally just started with the Young Bucks just filming their travels, and now it's just become this gigantic storyline with like SCUs in it. They just got Rey Mysterio in on it. Chris Jericho's on the show. You've got like all these guys that are taking part in it and who have their own mini storylines going on it.
Yeah. It's just, I think it's going to become this all-encompassing thing before we know it. It's going to be like TV show level.
For sure. Like they could put that on TV and it would just get massive ratings.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, like that's just in regards to anything that the Young Bucks and the Elite do. I'm still in shock that they were able to get the WGN America deal for All In for 0 hour. That was huge news.
But apparently WGN wanted the pay-per-view. They just wanted to air it. It was going to be able to go out to 70 million homes, and it was going to be, there and visible. But I was reading up about it earlier, and apparently the sort of vision that Cody and the Bucks have for how some of the matches are going to go, it wouldn't be suited to WGN putting it out there. So I guess maybe that's an indicator that there's going to be some sort of extreme moments, or maybe they just sort of, because I personally think the aura around a pay-per-view is bigger than any sort of free TV deal. If you can build this sort of mystery and everybody's desperate to see it, you're going to make a lot more money via pay-per-view than you would maybe in terms of exposure on public television. Plus, I'd imagine if the pay-per-view does well, there'll be sort of a cut-down version goes out on WGN. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm pretty sure that given the success of it already, there's going to be maybe another event. And if there's another event, then I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up on WGN.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that there's just so much like people don't know what they're gonna expect with that, and that's such a good thing about this show is the fact of how they've built it up to a point where anybody is willing to do whatever they can to see it. Like that's like people were begging and asking to see how they could see All In after the tickets sold out in like a half hour. So I mean they've got all the momentum in the world riding into this show.
And that's it. And if it turns out well, then Madison Square Garden's no longer Vince's territory, so there's a slightly bigger room that they can probably almost definitely sell out.
Oh, they could.
I mean, Ring of Honor and New Japan
They
just
could
did it,
100% sell that out for sure. Like if they can sell out the Sears Center, I don't see why they couldn't sell out MSG. And New York's such a huge wrestling town in itself. Like I don't see why they couldn't do that.
I mean, MSG's the big one. If you could sell out MSG because of its history within the sport, I think it'll be a no-brainer. If they did All In 2 or whatever they're going to call it, it would make absolute sense to do Madison Square Garden.
Absolutely, yeah. And you can just hear Vince seething in Stanford right now over that slight idea.
Yeah, but it's 2018. The scene is changing. People are getting, more and more aware that there's more out there than just WWE. I mean, if you still say to anybody the word wrestling, the immediate image that pops in their head is probably going to be WWE. It's pretty similar for me. If you say wrestling, I'd imagine something WWE based, but that doesn't mean that's the first thing I'll go to. But like, I think WWE can't really be hung up on it. Yes, it was their historic home, but if they're not going to run the center, like if they're not going to run the Garden, then why should the Garden hold out? Because they've got Barclays now. So why should the Garden be pandering to them still?
Yeah, of course. And like they do the Garden every single year for SummerSlam. So it's like if you're going to go to the same place, like obviously like
well, they do Barclays now for SummerSlam, right?
Yeah, they do the Barclays every single year now. It's like it's wild how because like originally I think it was in LA for the longest time at the Staples Center, and then they switched over to New York.
I think what happened was they got the first arena deal where it was like a consecutive year deal for the same arena. I think that was LA, and then they got a similar deal with Barclays. They did run Madison Square Garden, I believe, at Christmas.
I think so.
They run house shows there, but I mean, for Madison Square Garden, if it's live broadcast, it's a no-brainer. And I think that the Ring of Honor New Japan show and Ring of Honor and New Japan are very, very open about the fact that they're gunning for WWE. They're not the little leagues anymore. They never will be again. They need to take them on head to head. So it's just going to be a very, very interesting year in the world of independent and wider professional wrestling.
Yeah, especially because like the last time we saw a company be like, "Oh, we're going to take on WWE head on," was Impact, and we all saw how bad that went. So, but this one actually has
but the problem there was Dixie, and it was the same pitfalls. If you don't learn from history, then you're doomed to repeat it. So what does she do? She hires Hulk Hogan, and that's how it ends up.
I mean, like he's the Hulkster, but it was WCW all over again.
Yeah, and then there's the whole thing about them having Russo secretly on the books, and that was a car crash.
Oh, it was absolutely a car crash.
But I think underneath Harold May and with Sinclair running Ring of Honor, I think there's enough business sense between them. With Harold May in particular, I mean, the guy turned around Tomy, the games and children's toy company. They were sort of reporting record losses in like 2014. And then Harold May, who I think grew up in Japan, he was then appointed to the head of Tomy. And within a year, he'd like turned it around and doubled their profits. And it was like insane. But he's been a lifelong wrestling fan. So I think New Japan's in very, very safe hands.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Now, moving on to a little bit more WWE news and, WWE-related news. And this one's a tough one for me, and I definitely wanted to know your opinion about this because this has been a huge story. It's the story behind CM Punk heading back to court and this time being sued by his, former friend Colt Cabana over legal fees from their lawsuit with WWE Dr. Chris Amon, with it coming out that Punk was telling Colt Cabana that he was on his own with this legal fees, and he had about like $500,000+ that he had told Cabana, "You have to pay this. I can't help you. I'm not helping you anymore."
Yeah, so basically, I was looking through the exhibits earlier. Actually, the first exhibit was the summons, the sort of messages they'd received, the emails, and then physical letters, and then it was Punk saying to Colt essentially, "I've got your back. I'll sort you out." And then I believe there was another message where it was made slightly clearer that Punk would stick with Colt and he would help him and he would help sort everything out, including legal fees, things like that. And then he just double backs. He's like, I've already spent $1 million. 300 grand of that is my legal fees, and the remaining amount out of 500. So it was I think it was another 200 or 300 grand. He was just all of a sudden like, you owe me that money. So it's the legality of, I guess, the verbal contract, because if Punk said, then yeah, I'm going to cover your fees, which I don't think he ever explicitly states. He just says he's going to hook him up and sort him out with his legal team. But it all just seems a bit like, yeah, okay, I'm going to help you. And then, Jesus, I didn't realize it was going to cost me this much money. And then I can't really afford to be doing this. So I think Colt has every right to take him to court if he feels that he was promised that. Because, I mean, if your friend, and it was his best friend, if he's telling him, I'm going to help you, you're going to trust that. So to have it taken away, then, I mean, there was one thing in one of the exhibits, which was, it was the email or the text when he said to him, you owe me this much money. And then I think Punk signed it off with, and I hope you don't want to make this messy. As in, don't be going and making this a public thing, which is, it's a bit weird. But then I think Punk's legal counsel just dropped him as well, which just dropped Colt in the middle of the sort of build up to the case, which obviously didn't help him at all. So it's a very messy situation between two people that I'd imagine wouldn't want something like this to be public. Both seem like quite private guys. And yeah, it's just a bit sad, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, coming from me especially, the big CM Punk mark that I am. Well, I'm not a mark. I'm not going to chant CM Punk over any slight inconvenience that happens in WWE. But CM Punk has always been one of my favorites, as well as an idol. I watched, I think it was the storyline he did with Chris Jericho, where he was, where it really kind of explicitly showed his straight edge ways, and watching his documentary about why he decided to be straight edge was one of the main things that made me be like, yeah, I'd want to live like that. I want to be straight edge. So I've always looked at Punk as an idol and as a big reason of why I love professional wrestling. And I've stuck with him since he went to UFC. I've stuck with him when he went to write for Marvel, and I've always stuck with him. And I've never been one person to be like, kick somebody when they're down or leave them when they're in their hardest time. So I'm at this point I respect and love Colt Cabana too. Don't get me wrong. So I'm reserving judgment on this whole thing because obviously I love both these guys, and I kind of just want to wait till everything gets settled before I have my own full thoughts on it. Just because I love and respect these guys too much, to the point where I got tickets to meet Punk at Pro Wrestling Tees for All In Weekend. The tickets that sold out in like 20 seconds. Yeah, I got tickets to see him because I love him that much. So obviously I'm gonna side with Punk, but I also want to side with Cabana. So it's a shitty situation. I'm so upset that like all this is happening, and I also want to point out too, because I read the whole documents too, and there was the one message that I saw where it was like Punk saying like, I lost faith in you a long time ago, which I think was him alluding to Colt Cabana showing up backstage at a WWE event. Which, I mean, like, it's a tough situation to be in for both these guys, and obviously it just really makes me sad to see two guys who were the closest of friends and somebody that Punk went to when he was struggling in WWE. And also just for Cabana to get sucked into this whole thing too, because there was no reason for him to get dragged into all these legal fees.
I mean, it must have been terrifying for him because Colt Cabana is a proud independent wrestler. He is proud of that, and he travels the world as an independent wrestler and as this like bannerman for independent wrestling. And to just have somebody drop a lawsuit on you that's like catastrophically huge, like to the point where it's almost unfathomable. It must have been just unbelievable. Like, so I really feel for him in that sense that he's sort of been roped into this because I guess like it was subject matter and sort of failure to control how far that subject matter went. But I don't know. Like, one thing I've always been keen to find out about CM Punk fans is because I enjoy CM Punk, but I had fallen off as he was making his meteoric rise. I caught the tail end. I understand that he's amazing, and I know people like fall at his feet. And he had a great run in Ring of Honor that I remember. And one thing that's always interested me though is fans that feel slighted by the guy leaving WWE, like fans that feel like he's turned their back on them, that he's sort of given up, that he's gone off to do some other thing because wrestling isn't good enough and therefore wrestling fans aren't good enough. And that's always something that's fascinated me in that sense. And then, you know, the constant CM Punk chants, because like, oh, we'll stick it to WWE, we'll chant his name. They couldn't care less. Like, and if he needs money, he will come back. But I would like to see, if he says he's done with wrestling, then he's done with wrestling. And, you know, I'd love to see him come back on the indies, especially the shape the indies are in now. But, you know, I think it's more likely that if the time's right and the money's right, maybe in a few years, we'll see him back for a last run. But I don't know, because I don't know what's going to happen with his MMA career now. I don't know if he's just sort of going to disappear for a while.
It's very possible that after this meet and greet that he's doing at Pro Wrestling Tees, that he's
running it all in.
Yeah, running it all in. Yes, Sydney and I have confirmed he will run it all in and just kick Colt Cabana in the dick.
If this legal case hadn't happened, then yes. If Colt Cabana hadn't sued him like within the last 48 hours, then yes. But I think there's going to be a lot of raw nerves. It's not just something that you can, you know, just shake a guy's hand after you feel, because I imagine Punk will feel very slighted by Colt asking for this money. And I think there'll be a lot of animosity there. I think very much so that he will turn up to his meet and greet, he will shake as many hands as he can, and that will be that.
Yeah.
I don't mean to bum everybody out and disappoint everybody, but just as a realist, and with him going through a legal case right now with one of the guys, I think he's going to turn up, shake hands, make some money, leave.
Yeah, that's I think that's something everybody should realize. Maybe before this whole case came out, maybe, but even then, that's still a long shot. But
yeah,
it's just a situation that's really, really crappy, and like obviously, yeah, like the fans who feel they've been slighted by Punk and who be like, he betrayed us and stuff like that, they must be shitting their pants with happiness over this whole thing. But I don't want to see two guys that I love and respect have a falling out, like in such a public forum too.
But this will probably go on until either the end of this year or, you know, early to mid next year, because the case, I'm assuming, will be pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, and then I imagine settled. But there will have to be court dates that they're all going to have to meet, and I just think this is going to go on for a very, very long time.
Yeah, and it's going to be it'd be really tough for me to believe that Punk would rekindle his friendship at all with Cabana, because obviously this is only an assumption, but Punk seems like a guy who is all about pride, and like obviously,
yeah, he stands by his guns.
Yeah,
like that's something about him that you can tell just by looking at him. He sticks by his guns.
Yep, so, which is why so many people, like, even though they want to believe that he will go back to WWE with everything that he said, there's no way. Like, he's too prideful of everything he said to just wander back and be like, hey, I'm back after everything I said. So I feel like it's going to be tough to see them.
Plus, all that's left for him is a Mania main event, really.
That's it, really. That's all they could do.
That's all that's left, and I think it's more likely that I don't think it's going to be a 2K style deal where it's like he's the cover star and here he comes back for one more run at the age of 52.
Yeah.
But if it's ever going to happen, I think it'll happen within the next 5 years. But I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, and you also gotta put into fact of how old he's getting too, because like you can only be a pro wrestler for so long. But
Yeah, but you can change up your in-ring style. If you look over at Japan, there's a lot of guys still going well into their 40s and 50s.
that's true.
He's quite a physical guy, but it just means he's probably not going to be going off the top rope or doing anything super crazy. But at the same time, he's the type of guy where I would sort of expect him to do that, even at the expense of himself, because of his sort of entertainer persona, like sort of do or die. And I don't really know if I want to see like a 48-year-old CM Punk going off a ladder.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, and any way you look at it, though, this is a crappy situation. It sucks just to see this happen, but we'll definitely have to see how it develops and when this case actually goes through. But moving on to a little bit more lighter WWE stuff, we have SummerSlam coming in a few weeks, and
Next weekend.
Yeah, next weekend. Yeah, that's right.
Next weekend.
It's looking like a decent card, honestly. I was able to attend SummerSlam last year, and the card they gave us was good, but there was definitely some missed opportunities. Jinder Shinsuke. Excuse me. But besides that, the rest of the show was relatively good. But I'm very. I think honestly, the thing I'm probably the most excited for is Alexa Bliss versus Ronda Rousey, which I know is probably causing some like marks to be like, no, fuck Ronda.
Well, I don't get this either. Like, she's no different to Lesnar. She's different to Lesnar in the way that Lesnar started out as an amateur wrestler, then a pro wrestler, then UFC. She is obviously a judoka, and then straight into UFC and then wrestling. Plus she's good. I don't understand this sort of rhetoric going around that Ronda can't wrestle, that she's fresh. She's so fresh. And if you think about the amount of time she's actually been wrestling and then look at her in the ring, you wouldn't be able to tell that she's only been wrestling for, a matter of months. It's not, she's getting better day on day, week on week. And I don't think they're going to put the belt on her at SummerSlam at all. But, yeah, it's going to be a great match.
I agree.
As soon as she gets her hands on Alexa, it's going to be great.
I agree. And like anything to do with Alexa, I'm always behind too, because I stand by Alexa being one of my favorite women wrestlers it's mainly women heels, because she's the best female heel on the roster in my personal opinion, and I know that
100%.
she can get some great heel on Ronda and the fans too, because we've seen what she can do in previous rivalries. So I can just imagine the amount of heat she can get by like just cheap shotting Ronda.
Yeah. And that's what I think is going to happen. I think it'll be a nice, sneaky, cheaty win for Alexa, and then Ronda will take the belt at Evolution.
Oh, you think she's going to take it at Evolution? I thought they might wait till next year's WrestleMania, possibly.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, Ronda's sort of front and center at the moment, and with it being an all-women's event and this sort of celebration of women finally being accepted in WWE, not in wrestling, in WWE.
Yeah, exactly.
I think, yeah, it probably makes the most sense to put it on her there. And then there'll be this big sort of NXT style moment with, flowers and applause and everybody coming out. But yeah, I just don't understand the Ronda hate at all.
I don't either, honestly. I think it's just like people like just getting Brock flashbacks, but it's not even the same thing, I feel like.
Well, she blew everybody's balls off at WrestleMania.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite match at Mania, by far. Now, one real quick though, Sid, what match, I didn't get to actually ask you, Sydney, what match you were most looking forward to?
Probably the same, or maybe even, honestly, I'm actually excited for the pre-show match. I want to see
Rusev and Lana versus.
I love Andrade.
I do love Andrade too. Andrade and Zelina Vega are great too. I just hate the fact that they got stuck on the pre-show.
I do too.
I mean, it's going to be a long ass show. And I think for me, the best match is going to be Styles versus Joe.
Yeah.
Because
How about that one?
how isn't that going to be great? And I'd like to see Joe take it. I don't think he will, but we'll see. But yeah, I mean, those guys have worked together for God knows how long now, so they know each other inside out, and I'm pretty sure they're going to want to put on a show. And SummerSlam is becoming the WrestleMania away from WrestleMania. So it has to be a solid show. I don't think we can really have another lackluster SummerSlam in the repertoire. It needs to sort of be consistent year on year on year now.
Yeah, for sure. And I every time I think of Samoa Joe and AJ Styles, I get flashbacks to their match with Christopher Daniels at Impact, which was so good. So I know these guys are going to put on
you can
one
watch
hell of a
that
match.
on YouTube now for free.
Yeah, you can watch that on
the
YouTube
full
for
match
free.
in its entirety.
Yeah, definitely watch that match if you haven't seen it. It's such a good match. Honestly, if I'm being honest, I want to see just how much Barclays Center just completely just shits all over Roman Brock.
Well, I was about to ask you that. It's going to main event.
Oh yeah,
It has to main event. Do you think there's going to be a cash in?
ooh, maybe.
Because right now,
Because I
think
feel like
it's
what's
all
gonna
like
if
everybody
there were
wants
to be a cash in, it would have to be Roman wins the title, but Brock like Germans him or F5s him before he just storms out, and then that's when Braun comes in.
What? Because it all depends on what happens. So if Heyman turns on Brock and aligns with Roman, I don't think we can have a cash in because that's just far too much going on.
Yeah, for sure.
If Heyman doesn't and sticks with Brock, Roman would still have to win the belt because it would be one more for the tally, and then Braun could take it off him. But I don't know. I'm sort of excited and nervous to see how empty that arena gets in the space of about 5 minutes of that match starting.
You think they're gonna beat the traffic?
Well, apparently they don't need to because there's a train that goes pretty much to the.
Oh
the
yeah, no,
arena.
yeah. There's like literally outside outside the entrance. There's literally just a subway there that just takes you like to multiple areas in New York. So
Yeah.
yeah,
But I mean, it's one thing to leave. It's another thing to boo Roman. You could just do nothing. If you just sat there and made no noise and folded your arms and everybody in that arena did that, they can't edit in noise for that.
What I think would be the funniest.
Disgust, just sit in silence.
What I think would be the funniest is because I've seen these people have done this at sporting events too, where they like kind of try to throw off the opposing team or the away team. I think it would be hysterical if everybody in the arena stood up, crossed their arms, and then just faced away from the ring, and then just showed their backs to the hard cam.
It's something that's happened a lot in Progress in particular. Paul Robinson used to come out and people would just turn their backs to him. Yeah, I mean, I just don't know what's going to happen, but they have to put on something good.
It's got to be. I would say the least they can do is do something different.
It's like the 500th time we've seen this, and it's going to just be F5, 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 spear pin.
Yeah, I mean, though, yeah, and then like maybe one Superman punch, but like,
yeah,
and that's the thing is like. I even still go back on this because I famously on the podcast described my utter hatred for beach balls, and when me and Sid were at Mania, there were like 4 flying around at the same time for Roman Brock.
I was trying to pay attention to the match and actually watch the match, and I had to keep on like hearing him screaming at the people to put away their beach balls and to watch the damn match. And so I'm just like trying to pay attention, and I'm just like, I just keep hearing it, and it starts getting annoying to me, too, because I legitimately can't pay attention to the ring because there's so many beach balls flying around.
But this is it, and like I get that the beach ball is, a sign of disgust. Mexican wave is a sign of disgust. But I completely disagree with this shitty fan mentality of I paid money for my ticket, I can do whatever I want. No, you can't. You can't.
Yeah.
Like, you've paid money to come to the event, watch the event, and you don't ruin it for other people. If there's like a family with young kids in front of you in the arena and you're just shitting all over the match, just ruining like a really good time for this family and these young kids who are still impressionable, still believe wrestling's real, like watching that happen in places like Mania was just like, wrestling isn't real. It's a fact you learn quite early on, and you'll either stick with it or you'll go away from wrestling. You might come back to wrestling one day. But I just think you can't just try and hijack a show.
No.
It's something that I just, as a British fan in particular, like the Royal Albert Hall just chance after chance after chance after chance of pointless shit as well, like chanting at somebody for their tiny boots. Couldn't care less. Chant and cheer and boo and have a good time, but don't ruin it for everybody else.
Yeah, and like that's the thing too, is that there was some like I don't care about the chants, at least that took place at WrestleMania, but specifically the sign into when we went into the Mercedes-Benz Superdome legitimately said no beach balls as one of their banned items. So I felt like everybody who brought one should have been kicked out of the arena, and also. Like they should have been like, because it was the main event, they should have been like, oh, you we're taking away your beach ball. Also, do you have tickets to the Raw after Mania? Because now you don't.
No, they can't do that. So you can't alienate your fans that much by taking away, because that's just a PR disaster. Getting rid of beach balls is fine because they're a contraband item. They were told they weren't allowed to bring them, and you can kick somebody out of maybe they have 5 or 6 beach balls and they're a repeat offender. If it's one person, you're going to have a hard time proving, unless you catch them blowing it up, that it was their beach ball. I think it's a very weird thing, but I think that fans should have this sort of mentality going into it that when you turn up to a show, you're a part of that show, but that doesn't give you the right to do whatever the hell you want. You should be there and cheer if you're happy and you like it, boo if you don't like it. And do nothing if you're disgusted. Just do nothing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, just sit on your hands. No, yeah, I'm just I get so tilted over the beach balls, like literally, like because like I was part of the whole SummerSlam last year fiasco where Cesaro ran into the crowd and just destroyed it, and I was so happy. Yeah,
and that all that did was give rise to more beach balls.
It did, yeah, obviously, yeah. At that moment, I was like, yes, Cesaro, be the man, be the amazing man you are, and destroy that beach ball. Then I was like, oh god, they showed that. Here comes more.
Yeah.
No, it's just so annoying. But excuse me. Obviously, also, I'm speaking on Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman. That Heyman promo on Raw last week was the best promo of the year. I don't want anybody to at me about that. At least in WWE, that was the best promo of the year.
I'd say, other than, and everybody's gonna give me shit for this, other than this is my yard now after 11 straight minutes of booing. I think it's probably the best. It beats even that. I think, of the last few years in total, Heyman is a genius, like an absolute genius. He knows exactly what he's doing. He has the mindset of a promoter, always has, always will. He's always able to get the most out of everything. Absolutely everything. It's like he can squeeze every last drop from something that he sees the potential in.
Yeah.
And, it's key that he's such a big part of this because it's making people semi-give a crap, which is saying something when we've seen the match 100 times.
Yeah, and that goes the same with Brock too, obviously, because obviously people can't stand Brock with the Universal Championship, but at the same time, whenever Brock's around, Heyman's like not 2 steps away from him, and Heyman's always going to do amazing stuff. And I think the fan consensus is everybody loves Heyman, and a lot of people hate Brock.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Brock is, again, it's his job. If you wanted him to turn up more, put it in his contract. If you really want him there, but you don't want the belt on him, pay him the amount of money he asks. If, it's not Brock's fault, really. It's sort of WWE's fault for agreeing to those terms. So if the fans are going to be upset with it and you're desperately trying to get the Reigns thing over, I get it, but fans just hate both of them now. and it's because, they haven't really capitalized on the Brock being away. And when they tried, it was Roman going, well, I'd be a good champion. Everybody's like, nobody cares. I'd bring the belt every week. Nobody cares. Turn him heel. That's all you can do. That's all you can do.
Yeah, and I know people are all high and mighty and about people want Roman to turn heel, and I definitely do think him turning heel would be a big moment. It's just a matter of making sure that he has a good babyface to go up against too, because I don't think just heel Roman could carry a WWE title run. You'd need a good babyface to go off against him.
I think everybody would go wild over it for about 6 weeks, and then it would just not matter.
Oh yeah, it would just go back to normal, because as long as they don't fix the booking decisions with Roman, then there's not gonna really change anything about that. I'm still of the mindset of Finn Balor should still like be in the Universal title picture, even though they've treated him like crap, shoving him with Constable Corbin, which is just the biggest disservice. Because Finn Balor is probably one of my favorite, at least in terms of male superstars, he's my favorite on the roster. And I was heartbroken when he had to vacate the Universal title when he won it. And the fact that the thing that pisses me off the most is having Michael Cole being like the first ever Universal champion, and then like just having no explanation as to why he never got his rematch and why he never got put back in that title picture. Because the guy is unbelievably talented, but they apparently lost faith in him in the full like few months that he was away for injury, and then just never gave him the chance again.
It's the thing as well of like, I mean, I think it was Triple H had said it in an interview recently where it was like, just because guys are big in NXT, it doesn't mean that they're going to be a big deal when they get to the main roster. And I think, they might have soured on Balor. But, I wouldn't say, he is definitely one of the most featured and most prominent faces on Raw. It sucks that he's not in the picture, but it's only a matter of time until he's back there. I just think there's a problem in WWE at the minute with a lack of great characters. Like there's no sort of exciting. There's nobody who I'm like, I'll tune in and I'll be like, I can't wait to see this guy wrestle. Like I can't wait to see his character. I can't wait to see his promo. Like we had that with Kane and The Undertaker and Mankind and Goldust, and you had all these great characters, but now it's sort of like WWE's becoming this weird quasi sport, leaning more toward that, but still trying to be an entertaining product. And you have this sort of, everybody's sort of a normal person from a normal town doing normal things. And, there's little bits of tidbits, like one of them, like Elias, he's got an acoustic guitar. But there's nobody where it's like so outlandish that it's like, Christ. Like even Bray Wyatt's lost that.
Yeah,
like it's there's just nothing, and I think that was what made my childhood watching wrestling great was just the depth of all these weird mental characters, where it was just you couldn't really wait to see people collide in the ring. And right now, there's not really a lot of people where I'm like, I really want to see this match or I really want to see that match, because you can sort of already predict, because of the current in-ring style, how every matchup's going to go. Yeah.
No, yeah. And like you look back at the characters, like later in there, you got people like Macho Man, you got people like Roddy Piper, you got Jake the Snake, and then like even in the Attitude Era, you got The Rock, Stone Cold, and Mankind, and like you don't get a lot more of those larger than life characters. I'm one of the guys who's not really too hot on Dolph Ziggler, just because I don't find him too interesting. And like with Finn Balor, like the whole demon thing, I think they just really dropped the ball with. Just being like, oh, he'll win a match every time he's dressed up as the demon, but when he doesn't dress up as the demon, then he loses. And then people are like, then why doesn't he dress up as the demon all the time? Obviously, you put a big plot hole right there in that sense.
Well, they just didn't get across the demon thing well enough, like the why the demon has to come out, like that sort of thing. And the thing that annoys me about Demon Balor is that the moveset is the same. There's nothing that sets Demon Balor aside from the paint.
Besides the fact that he crawls to the ring.
It's like in New Japan in the 90s with Jushin Liger. He famously had his gear ripped off, and it revealed underneath that he was painted up and covered in kanji characters. And they referred to this character as Kishin Liger. And he went from being this sort of smooth, technical guy with a little bit of, aerial offense to just direct strikes. He just turned brutal. And I think with that sort of thing, if the demon character had that, where it would be like, like he's the demon, it's a completely different person. It's that sort of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah. I mean, he dressed up as that for NXT TakeOver.
Yeah. And it's I think that sort of thing where it's like, you really don't want to piss him off, because if you bring that out, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
But if it's just the same moves and the exact same mannerisms, except for crawling to the ring,
yeah, no, it's just disappointing. It's disappointing to talk about. It's because you can see the potential in it, and you can see all the right things that you can do with it. And that goes for a lot of people on the main roster. Like the only person I can see that could be considered larger than life in terms of outside their character Like in terms of like relating it back to like some of the older school characters, like with like the whole larger than life personalities, would have to be Braun Strowman. Like that's the only one I can really think majorly.
Braun's the only guy that's getting like Attitude Era style, pushing over an ambulance, like that sort of stuff, and pulling the stage down, and that's what made wrestling so fun. Like anything can happen in the WWF, like anything, and you would often see it. I mean, like Kurt Angle with the milk truck, Austin on the Zamboni, like, trashing DX's tour bus, things like that. Like you just sit there as a kid going like, what's going to happen next? And now it's like, well, I'll tell you what's going to happen next. There's going to be a rematch next week, and then this, and then this, and then this. And also we're going to run 3 of the matches that are going to be at the pay-per-view in 2 weeks. So it's like,
it's just we've lost unpredictability.
Missing. Yeah. And you've lost that sort of, that mystery around like what's going to happen when these people meet up.
Yeah. Now, I will say, like, to play devil's advocate to that, too, like, I do think there's still, like, little hints of that because, like, when Brock won at WrestleMania this year, everybody was completely dumbfounded because we all thought Roman was going over. And that's why everybody was just shitting on the match from the get-go. But if they wouldn't have shit on the match and they actually, like...
They weren't... Yeah, they weren't much happy when Brock won.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they still weren't happy that Brock won, obviously. But, like... the shock value would have been like at least somewhat there, but like I think the last time we had a legitimate shock factor was with Brock versus Goldberg at Survivor Series.
Yeah, I think that was the last sort of big what the hell's that? But yeah, I think it's sort of gradually became more and more paint by numbers as the years have gone on. The fact that we now have like pay-per-views named after stipulations, and it's like, why not just have a stipulation match on a different pay-per-view and like make that more special? Because if you've got Hell in a Cell, that like, 3 of the matches are going to be Hell in a Cell matches, 4 of the matches. And it's like, well, why is the main event so special? Why is the big Hell in a Cell match you've been promoting so special if you're promoting 3 or 4 more?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's really confusing. But to try to be a little bit more positive towards WWE, I am really looking forward to WWE Evolution. I think that this is...
Oh, yeah, I think it's such a huge step in the right direction.
Absolutely, yeah. And this is definitely something that they needed to really kickstart, and I'm very excited for that. In terms of matches that I want to see, top of my list is the Fatal 4-Way between the Horsewomen.
Yeah, I mean, that has to... It'll just be amazing. I'm really starting to wonder what sort of legends we're going to see come back as well. Very much so. So
yeah, definitely. Trish Stratus is one that would definitely be one that would be, I think, tons of fun to see.
Beth Phoenix.
Yep, Beth Phoenix. I'm one of the few people that think that Kelly like massively improved like in her last few years, and I think that seeing her come back for a match would be unbelievable.
Yeah, I think Lita's a no-brainer as well. And probably Molly Holly because she was out of the Rumble and she was still in good shape and still working well. So, yeah.
Yeah,
it's just...
I want to see Kairi Sane have a big match with somebody on the main roster too.
Yeah, I don't know what sort of thing they could set up with that, but it needs to be quite an aggressive match.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if I were to put her up with... I'm trying to think of somebody that I would want to put her up with. If I had to think of somebody, I think possibly seeing her with Nia could be kind of interesting.
Oh yeah, that's like a good contrast of styles, like brute power versus more technical and aggressive.
Yeah, just to see her like drop the elbow on her, I think would be something that would be crazy awesome.
Yeah.
What do you think, Sid? What match would you want to see?
I don't know.
Well, who do you want to see, like, at the show, like, specifically?
I mean, I really do have a feeling that, like, Trish and Melina might show up.
Melina? I completely forgot about Melina.
Melina's retired.
Yeah, I think.
Melina retired
Melina
today.
retired?
Today.
Just today?
What?
Seriously?
Yeah, Melina said that she's done. She thinks she's completely done with professional wrestling.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Wow, we completely missed that one, I guess.
Okay.
I did not see that at all. Wow. Well...
And this is why you work at the wrestling news.
Yeah, this is why you're on Cultaholic and we run a podcast here.
But yeah, it's pretty sad to see Melina having gone, but that's if she sticks to her guns, I guess. But we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, you never know. She could show up just to give her congrats, obviously.
Oh God, yeah.
But yeah, I think Trish might have a match with someone, which would be pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who I would put her up against though, because there's so many people she could have a great match with. Honestly, you guys haven't talked at all about Charlotte having a match there.
Well, I said the fatal four-way between the horsewomen.
Yeah. The horsewomen.
Yeah, that one.
Charlotte could have a match with anybody on the roster. She could have a match with a broom and she'd be fine.
I want her to face Ronda at next year's WrestleMania.
You want her to main event?
I want her to be part of the main event. I don't think they're gonna make it the main event. I just want it to be part of like the group of main events.
I think Charlotte's to the point where they could have her like end WrestleMania and like everyone would be completely fine with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Charlotte's at the point she's the sort of spearhead figure of the evolution of women's wrestling within WWE. Certainly.
The only thing I want to talk about too, with Evolution, obviously, is just like this has to be an area like this show. Like, this is where you need to fix the shit that you've done with Asuka. Because Asuka is in a point where it's kind of like, this is your chance to fix her, at least somewhat. Like, just kind of do a little bit of damage control of what you've done with Asuka in the past few months. So I think...
Well, how do you rebuild somebody that you've shattered completely?
So
it's the problem with giving a wrestler a streak, is that after the streak's gone, what happens?
Mm-hmm.
And especially when the streak gets beaten and then they get on a mic and go, my opponent was better than me. Like, how do you come back from that? And what the hell do you do other than turn her mega heel and have her beat down Charlotte after Charlotte wins a belt, or like get some sort of semblance of revenge? I think it's the only thing they could do would be to turn her mega heel.
It's like the only thing that we can think of, yeah. I mean, I hear people go back to the fact that she lost at Mania to Charlotte, and a lot of people were originally, like, when it first happened, there were people that were like, well, it was Charlotte. Charlotte's the best person for her to lose the streak to. But then you have people like I remember Kenny McIntosh being like, no, this is going to ruin her character. And then, like, I mean, he wasn't wrong.
Yeah, she should have, in all, like, everything I think about it, she should have probably lost to Charlotte and then immediately just brutally taken her out. Just taken her out and walked off with the belt.
So the same sort of thing that Shinsuke did?
Back. Yeah, just full on. But that's obviously why you couldn't really. But I think something like that is what you have to do with Asuka, to the point where she's on a warpath and absolutely nobody can take her down. Like,
well, I think it would have been better if Asuka were to do that, because then you got the streak out of the way, so that way you can work on her as a heel. And I thought Shinsuke should have won the title at Mania. I still think he should have won. But then again, I thought he should have won the title back at SummerSlam last year. It's just a bit sad to see him with the US belt. I mean, yeah, it's his first title on the main roster, but at the same time, it's like, come on.
Yeah, and I mean, we're supposed to believe that belt is level with the IC belt. It's not, but we're supposed to believe it's level with the IC belt, and it's just.
I think the last time
I don't know if it's just wishful thinking of wanting him to come in and just be immediately the champion of everything, and I think Nakamura is somebody that definitely will be going back to New Japan
for sure.
I don't think soon, but I think he's going to go back there and receive the biggest hero's welcome. But I think they'd have to probably turn him heel, because the crowd might turn on him a bit for abandoning him.
That is true, yeah.
Yeah. But I just expected more, I guess, as a fan for Shinsuke, but we're getting there. We're starting to get there.
Yeah, it's starting to get there, and maybe they'll kickstart it with this U.S. title run that'll lead to possibly a main title run. I don't know. I just feel bad just because, like, he gets settled with the U.S. title, obviously, which isn't considered on the same level as the IC title. But the problem is you can put it on the same level as the IC title. We saw that with the rivalry between John Cena and Kevin Owens. Like, we saw how big that title can feel when it's given the right people and with the right storyline.
But the problem is that makes you the champion of America. The Intercontinental belt makes you the the champion of North and South America. So you're immediately a better champion.
Yeah.
So like it can never really be on the same level. You could build it up in terms of like prestige and a good storyline. And I mean, John Cena's Open Challenge was amazing. But I sort of long for the days of a more rigid title structure.
Like you mean like light heavyweight championship and stuff like that, like where it's like
just a clear,
specifically labeled.
A clear path with, you know, like one big set of belts. But I understand that, you know, we need two brands now, and the company needs two brands, which means we need two sets of belts. And it's just, I just wish it was just a lot clearer.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that. And it's just, yeah, it's like you see it with the U.S. title though. It goes up for like a few months and then it just comes straight back down. And I don't think they can ever keep it at a steady pace.
But then where's Braun in all of this? Because he's like the champion of Saudi Arabia.
Exactly. Yeah, we've seen that title nowhere.
I think we saw it. We saw the trophy, which then got accidentally knocked over. That horrible, ugly trophy.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that got broken, and then we're probably never going to see that belt until maybe the Greatest Survivor Series or whatever the next event is. But yeah,
I don't know. It's a tough situation, and it just bothers me. But yeah, I think the only thing that I really want to do before we end this show is go through what's been announced for SummerSlam and kind of just give our quick our thoughts on each of the matches. So I'm just gonna pull up the SummerSlam card real quick. First off, for the pre-show with Rusev and Lana versus Zelina Vega and Andrade, who do you got going for that one?
I think Andrade might take it, with Lana somehow causing a disturbance for Rusev. Okay,
I think Andrade is gonna take it. And I think it may be with Aiden English fucking them up again.
Yeah, well, that's what I think might happen, yeah.
Yeah.
And they haven't got Aiden English in the shark cage to sell that little toy set, so
yeah,
he is free to come out.
Fuck the shark cage all to hell, like, legitimately. Again, SummerSlam last year, we saw Enzo in a shark cage between Big Cass and I think it was Big Show. I think.
Hey, that's Big Kaz to you now. He's on the indie scene as Big
Kaz. With a Z.
2 Zs.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. But, yeah, no, that was the dumbest thing I ever saw. Like, I was laughing, but at the same time, inside, I was dying inside.
No, like, the shark cage can be a very good stipulation. It's just...
It's silly.
You can tell they made up, like, maybe 30, 40,000 units of that toy. They really need to sell it.
No, yeah. And who do you got, Sid? Andrade and Zelina?
Yep.
Okay. Then we got Finn Balor versus Constable Corbin. My least favorite thing about Monday Night Raw, period.
I don't know. Constable Corbin's a lot better than Baron Corbin.
Yeah, but I don't like Corbin, period. Like, anything Corbin. And
really?
I hate seeing wrestlers wrestle in a dress suit and slacks and dress shoes.
It looks daft, but I think Corbin gets a bit of an unfair rap. He's apparently, like according to, was it Tough Enough that he was on, or was it Proving Ground? What was the show?
Breaking Ground, yeah. Breaking Ground.
Breaking Ground, yeah. Like, he seemed like a little bit of a dick, but I don't know. Like, I feel like he gets a little bit of an unfair rap. He's sort of a guilty pleasure, but I think Finn Balor's going to win.
Yeah, I think Finn will win too, and I do think that he's improved. I just don't like the whole Constable gimmick that they saddled him with, and I don't.
Well, it's just Corporate Kane.
Yeah, it's like the same thing with Corporate Kane. Yeah, exactly. I just don't like it when you make a character go corporate and then they have to wrestle in a dress suit and slacks because they're a businessman. Like it's stupid.
Yeah.
No, and Sid, who do you have? Finn Corbin?
I want Finn, but that's just. I don't know who's going to win, but I want Finn to win.
Yeah. Then we have Daniel Bryan and The Miz, which I think needed a lot more build to it. Like, at least from what I've seen so far, I think the build has been just okay.
Yeah.
Like, this should have been the biggest build, period.
There's a lot of legs left in this, yeah.
Very true, yeah.
Like, I think The Miz will go over.
I agree.
But yeah, I think this has got to carry its way to Mania, and it's got to build bigger and bigger and build in a better way than AJ and Shinsuke did, because Christ. Plus, it gives them that big Mania moment, and I think you can realistically build for another half year off the back of what they've got going on.
I agree. I think a lot of people, including myself, just wanted to see it really like light SmackDown on fire as soon as Daniel and Miz met up.
Yeah.
No, and
I saw that at a house show. It was a solid match. So
yeah. And you have
I want Daniel to win, but I think Miz will.
Okay. And then we got Cedric, Drew Gulak for Cruiserweight. I have Drew Gulak because I want to see the world burn.
Yeah, I'd like to see Drew Gulak with the belt.
Yeah, I want to see Drew win it and then just
give
it. I want him to just give a PowerPoint presentation on the history of the Cruiserweight title not meaning shit until he won it.
Yeah, and I'd like to see him, be very, very anti-Cruiserweight behavior as Cruiserweight champion.
Mm-hmm. I don't think he will win it. I think Cedric's going to win, but I want Drew to win it.
Yeah, I'd like to see Drew win it.
Yeah, and Sid, you got?
I think I'll go with Drew.
Okay. And Braun versus KO with the Money in the Bank contract down the line. I'm gonna keep it with Braun because that stipulation I just don't think it's not gonna change anything.
They have made Monster in the Bank T-shirts.
Yeah, exactly.
Staying on him.
It's staying on him.
It's more entertaining, to have Braun sort of this wild man who just, wants to mess shit up.
Yeah.
And just having that sort of idea that at any point he could cash in, and he's probably going to make an absolute mess while doing
Absolutely.
it. Absolutely.
I just love the fact how last week on Raw, like they decided to do his KO show out on the by the stage, and then Braun pushed it over. What if they just decided to have it in the ring like every other TV, like every other talk show they do, and then Braun's just underneath the ring trying to push the ring over for the entire time, and then KO's that's the KO show, everyone, thank you for listening, and bye-bye, and then Braun's still under there wait, I'm trying to push the ring. It's listen, I'm strong, I promise I'm gonna get this over. No, I got Braun winning this too, and I
got Braun.
Yep. And then we got Bludgeon Brothers versus New Day, SmackDown Tag Championships. I think this one I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's probably going to be Bludgeon again.
Yeah, I just think, why not?
Yeah, I don't know. The SmackDown Tag Division really needs a lot more stuff going on, I think.
Yeah.
It's just something that's not all that interesting. Dolph Ziggler versus Seth Rollins. This could definitely be a workhorse match. I think Ziggler will win.
I think Rollins could win with Drew costing Ziggler.
I
think I agree with Sam.
Really? You think Drew's going to turn on Ziggler?
He needs to.
No, I don't think I don't know if it'll be a conscious turn or whether it'll be, ref down and a mistake. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see that happen just because I want to see Drew on his own. I definitely thought it was weird when they showed up together, because I want Drew to win the world title for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna stick to my guns and say Ziggler. Shinsuke versus Jeff U.S. title. It's gonna be Hardy, I think.
I just. Shinsuke. Why do all the stuff with Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton?
Because they're popular.
Yeah, I don't know. Jeff's the type of guy where you could probably catapult him up well into the main event picture, for one last big run quite easily. I'm going to go with Shinsuke.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think there's too many people they're going to try to shove into the main title picture for them to put Jeff in there too. So I think they're going to keep
who's
Jeff
in there
down.
at the minute?
Well, you got AJ, you got AJ, you got Samoa, Daniel Bryan, I think could be one definitely. And you got.
He's not in at the minute.
Huh?
He's not at the minute.
Not at the minute, yeah, but I still think that's something that they could kickstart a lot more.
Right now, it needs this big shot of adrenaline, and I think a good thing for that picture is to just have a lot of people gunning for that belt.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I'm gonna stick with Hardy either way. And then Alexa Bliss, Ronda Rousey. I think it's gonna be Bliss, so they save it for Evolution probably.
Yeah, same.
Sid, you got the same?
Yeah. Also, you didn't let me say that I think Shinsuke's gonna win.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to skip you over. Carmella versus Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's title. Please, for the love of all that is fuck, give it to Becky.
Yeah, Becky's just not really had a good rap, and I think she would do wonders with that belt. So,
I agree. And
but at the same time, Carmella is so hateable.
I agree, but I also think that Charlotte is a solid heel too. Like, if they turned her heel, I think she can do good heel work too.
But I don't know if you can turn Charlotte heel while you've got, a big women's pay-per-view coming up and her probably being a central figure in it.
True, but like I think it would be awesome to have like Becky win the title and then have Carmella at the next show or like for the next few weeks chase after it, try to get it back from Becky, and then head into Evolution, and then you've got the Horsewomen Fatal 4 for the SmackDown Women's title.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I say give it to Becky. The girl is beyond over, and she's amazing, and I love her, and she's awesome. So give it to Becky. Brock versus Roman, Universal title.
I really want to see Brock win just to fuck everybody off.
Here's the thing with me. They've already had him pass Punk's 434-day reign, which pissed me off to no end. So if they gave it to Brock at this, if they gave it to Brock at this point, I would laugh so hard.
The thing with Brock is he's a part-timer. It's like, well, they knew that when they put the belt on him.
Oh yeah.
They knew that he was turning up for however many days. So they knew they were going to have to work around it when the fans started to get upset. So they know that. He's also going back into the UFC, and if there was not that I don't think any UFC fighter would, if they were a WWE champion, walk to the ring with the WWE belt. A lot of people were marking out really hard for that idea, and I can't see that, but I would love nothing more than to just have Brock retain that belt, and for every single person to just realize that we're going to have to sit through this again and again.
Oh yeah, we're just going to watch the world burn just to piss off all the marks.
No, it's not even that. It's just you can put the belt on Roman, but there is no amount of piping and cheers that you're going to be able to do for the next 3 to 5 weeks unless you turn him heel. If you turn him heel, that crowd is going to just immediately get hot.
Yeah.
Like they're going to be so excited, and it's possibly the only way they could get him cheered is to turn him into an absolute bellend.
Yeah.
I just sort of want to see Brock retain just to fuck with everybody's heads a bit more.
Yeah, just for that thought, I'll go with Lesnar too, just for the hell of it, because he already beat Punk's reign. I don't care anymore. It's all broken to me.
Yeah, I think realistically it has to be Roman, but then again, I've been saying that for about 5 pay-per-views now. So
we've all said, we thought that was going to happen at Greatest Royal Rumble, and it still didn't happen, even though it technically did happen, and they tried to make it seem like, oh no, Brock touched first.
Yeah, and I mean, I was there at Mania 32 when he got his little daughter out of the crowd, did Roman with his belt, and he got booed out of the arena with his child, and I imagine it's only gotten worse when you're there live subsequently.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember 33 when he beat Taker. That was just astonishing. But they have to have a plan, because the emergency plan, I guess, is put it on Roman, have Braun take it immediately, because, Braun will just be, the big guy. But I think realistically, if I'm booking with my head, it's Roman. If I'm booking with my heart, just to fuck everybody off, I want it to be Lesnar.
Yeah, if I'm booking with my head, Roman will win, and then Braun will cash in for a moment that'll send the crowd home happy.
Yeah, or he'll unsuccessfully attempt to cash in, only to get Superman punched and speared.
Yep, and then Roman's just like, get out of my yard.
Yeah.
Yep. What about you, Sid? Who do you got?
Roman.
You got Roman. Any cash in?
Possibly, maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
The cash in is dependent on Heyman turning. If Heyman turns, I don't think there'll be a cash in.
Yeah, if Heyman turns, no cash in. But if he doesn't, then there will be a cash in, I feel like. Finally, AJ versus Samoa Joe, WWE title. I'm going to go with Joe, actually.
Yeah, I'd like to see Joe with a good big run. So,
I agree.
Joe.
Because he's a guy that could just be unbelievably hateable, and I just think he can be unbelievably good as that in that heel role.
But he's unstoppable as well. Like there's not a lot of things that can stop Samoa Joe.
Yeah, and that rivalry can carry for how many weeks with AJ Samoa Joe, and I feel like people wouldn't get tired of it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I think that's all that we got right now. Thank you, Sam, so much for joining us here on this first episode of Pinned. Yeah, it was an absolute joy to have you on. Thank you again, and of course, you're welcome back on whenever you'd like. And thank you, Cindy, for filling in for Chad, obviously, who will be back very shortly in our next episode as soon as he can get some time off for work.
Yeah.
Because, he's a busy man, obviously. And, of course, remember, guys, we will also be at Starrcast on Podcast Row. Our date that we're scheduled in to be on Podcast Row is the Sunday after All In.
September 2nd.
Yep, September 2nd, on the day after All In. So if you guys are down there, say hi to us also. And if you can't get to Starrcast and you can't get to All In, remember it's on the Fight TV app. So go on and download that app and check it out and just experience All In from the comfort of your own home. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us on this inaugural episode of Pinned, and we'll see you guys next time.